What's up guys, this is Brandon and I'm back with another accounting video today. So I've been receiving some comments asking about what it's like to interview for a government accountant position. So if you guys didn't know, I am an accountant for the government. I work for a very large city. So today's video is just going to go over the whole interview process and I'll give you guys some tips on what to expect during your whole hiring process. So in the past, I have interviewed for a large county and a large city. So I haven't interviewed for a federal position or even a state position before. So if you guys are interested in those, their interview process might be totally different. For example, if you go to FBI, they might have you do some physical exercises or something like that. That's not at all anything I had to do for my interview. So interviewing for a government accountant position is actually a lot different than interviewing for a CPA firm or even an industry job. So I interviewed for the large county the first time and it was definitely a different experience compared to what I experienced when I interviewed for other positions. So definitely when I walked in there, basically how it worked was that there was a piece of paper on the desk which had a list of questions, and basically what they do is they go down the list and you have to give the answers for these specific questions, and then at the end you do a closing statement. So this is pretty similar to what I experienced in the city interview as well. So pretty much, yeah, they have a list of questions. Pretty much you go down the list and you give a closing statement pretty much summarizing why you are the person for this job. So yeah, this definitely caught me off guard for the first interview I had because I was expecting them to, ask some behavioral questions, maybe just, some questions to lighten up the mood, but that's definitely not how it went. So it's definitely structured very differently than if you were to interview for a CPA firm. So yeah, government accounting positions definitely have their own procedure and the people who are interviewing you definitely stick to it. So yeah, I'll go through the entire hiring process from when I applied at the city to when I got hired. So pretty much I applied to the city in June. So pretty much, it has an application period of 2 weeks opening. So yeah, you have to apply within those 2 weeks. There's no acceptances. If you're a day or an hour late, they will not accept your application and you're gonna have to wait for the next opening, which is probably not for an entire year. So yeah, there's this 2 week period where you apply. So, you send in your resume, you fill out the application. You have to pretty much include all of your accounting units or classes that you took during your college, because in order to qualify for the position, you do need a bachelor's degree and you need a certain amount of accounting classes. So maybe there are some people who apply that weren't accounting majors, so they make sure that you have enough accounting units to be eligible to apply for the accountant position. So once you do that, you have to wait kind of a long time. I believe I waited like 2 months before I received a response saying that, oh, you are eligible for the position. And pretty much once they say that, then they are going to schedule a test. So this test was in person, so pretty much it is an accounting test to make sure that you have the basic concepts of accounting down. So I believe it was like a 95 question test that I had to take in person. So I had to go to a high school around that area, and pretty much, there was a bunch of people there basically taking a test. Just imagine the SATs, but with a bunch of random people of all ages too. So yeah, we're pretty much in a classroom and we have to take this 95 question accounting test. And maybe after a month, they get back to you and tell you if you pass the test. So in order to qualify, you have to score a 70% or better on this accounting test, and then you are put on an eligibility list. So which means that based on this, you are eligible to be interviewed for the accountant position. So once you are put on this eligible list to be interviewed, they will then schedule an interview for you in person, and you will basically have to do the first part of the interview process, which is basically talking to 2 people. So I talked with a principal accountant, and then I talked with I believe it was an interview specialist. So I guess they can kind of just read body language and see how you're speaking, I guess. And then they have the principal accountant, who's obviously kind of gonna know if you actually know your accounting terms and you're not just saying random stuff. So yeah, that was my first interview, and based off of that, they're gonna grade you. So pretty much you're on a scale of, I'm not sure exactly what the scale is, but basically the highest score I think you can get is a 99. So based on that, they will rank you pretty much. So 99 is obviously going to get to the second round of interviews first. Then if you score 98, you get to the second round of interviews. And they just pretty much go down this list. So pretty much, yeah, I think if you're scoring in the 90s, I believe you should be interviewed. I was actually really lucky and I scored a 98, I believe, on that interview process. So my second round of interviews was actually pretty close to the first interview, because I've known some other people who scored a little bit lower and it took them, you know, maybe a year to get to that second round of interviews. So, but I mean, if you are trying to get a new job at that point, you pretty much have been waiting a year and you might have already gotten a different job. So yeah, I was pretty blessed to be able to get that second interview pretty quickly. So I think I interviewed the first time in September, I believe, and then I interviewed the second time in November. So during the second interview is when they pretty much put you in a room with 2 to 3 accountants. So it's probably going to be your manager and probably your manager's manager. So once you do that, that's when they go through that list that I was talking about. Pretty much they have a list of, you know, 10 to 12 questions that they're going to ask you. And pretty much, you know, you got to answer them to the best of your ability. And then you're going to give a closing statement. So the closing statement is very important in my opinion. And pretty much, yeah, this is where you're going to go and summarize exactly why you are the man or woman for this position. So you're pretty much going to go through and just say, go through your resume pretty much and explain to them how all of your experience and any accomplishments, so say you pass the CPA exam, for example, all of those put together, why it's going to make you like the best person for this position. That's what you got to sell them on at that very end, because pretty much, yeah, they don't really allow you to go and ask questions per se. Like, I know in CPA firms, you're going to ask, like, you know, what are the hours during busy season, for example. You don't really get that opportunity in a government accountant interview. They're not going to let you, you know, really ask your own questions. So yeah, it's very, you know, strict and to the book of what their procedures are. Yeah, the whole time period from when I applied to basically when I got hired and started was pretty much a 6-month process. So I applied in June and my first day was the first week of January. So yeah, it was a pretty lengthy process, and I've heard other people have even longer processes, like an entire year. So yeah, it really just varies, I guess, where you end up after that first interview, where you end up on the list. If you guys do land a government accountant interview, definitely make sure that you research the government entity that you are applying for. Make sure you know a little bit about what they do and exactly what the accounting unit is responsible for. That'll definitely go a long way in your interview, because a lot of the questions that they do ask are very specific. I do know that there are some government accounting positions that don't require any prior work experience, even in accounting. So pretty much, yeah, all you have to do is have a bachelor's degree. But if you are in that position, I definitely would recommend that you are well versed in your accounting knowledge, because if they do start grilling you during your interview and you have no idea what they're talking about, it's definitely not going to look good. But yeah, I've seen some people where they are hired as their first job pretty much. So it's definitely possible that you can get the position without having much prior work experience at all. So that pretty much sums up the entire interview and hiring process for a government accountant position in my own experience. So obviously, yeah, somebody else's might be totally different than mine, but yeah, that's basically what I went through when I was applying for government accountant positions. So yeah, if you guys had any more questions about this, don't be afraid to comment down below and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys want more government accounting videos, I will definitely do so in the future. But please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like this video, and comment any topic down below that you'd like me to talk about in the future. And I'll catch you guys next video.